Roman Abramovich must have fired more people than Alan Sugar or Donald Trump. So let's go through them. Subscribe to the Football Library for more. Claudio Ranieri, May 2004. When Abramovich took over Chelsea, he met Claudio Ranieri, who was in charge at the time. He supported the Italian with a transfer budget of over £120 million, which helped the club sign some top talents. Ranieri had a great campaign with Chelsea that year and could have won the league, but Arsenal's Invincibles were just too strong. With the investment Abramovich pumped into the club, second place was viewed as a failure, regardless of the opposition, and he promptly sacked Ranieri. Chelsea fans began to realise how impatient and ruthless Roman Abramovich would be. Claudio in total was in charge for 199 matches, picking up 107 wins and had a win percentage of 54%. Not too shabby. Jose Mourinho, September 2007. Unarguably Chelsea's most successful coach ever. Jose came to the West London club in the 2004-2005 season, right after winning the Champions League with Porto. Mourinho immediately lived up to the hype surrounding his arrival and won the League Cup and the Premier League in his first season. This won him the admiration of the fans. He finished at the top of the league the next season and won the FA Cup and his second League Cup in the 2006-2007 season. Having won the Premier League titles consecutively, the fans hoped Mourinho would deliver them the Champions League as he had done for Porto. Sadly, this didn't happen. The Portuguese ended up leaving the club in September 2007 after a poor run of form and falling out with the club hierarchy. He finished with a win percentage of 67 from 124 wins out of 185 matches. Mourinho would eventually return to the club, and he did so with a bang. Avram Grant, May 2008. Avram Grant had no experience outside of Israel. However, he was Abramovich's personal friend and was also Chelsea's director of football in 2007. He was tasked with the job of steadying the ship of Chelsea after Jose Mourinho had been sacked in September. Now, Grant wasn't your typical European manager, so not everyone expected him to do a great job. He almost did. He shocked everyone when he got to the final of the 2008 Champions League and the EFL Cup final. Sadly, he couldn't win either of them, with the Champions League coming down to that John Terry penalty. Abramovich's friend or not, Grant received the sack for what the Russian felt was a terrible season. Luis Felipe Scolari, February 2009. Scolari had won the World Cup with Brazil some years before arriving at the bridge. His CV was great, and so fans hoped he was going to do with Chelsea what he'd done with Brazil. He had a great start to life as a Chelsea manager, but couldn't keep that run going. He ended up winning 20 out of 36 matches with a win percentage of 56. Scolari was fourth on the table and Abramovich had run out of patience. He wanted his team to compete, and under Scolari, they weren't. The next Chelsea coach on this list only came in on an interim basis. However, he was able to manage a trophy. Gus Hiddink, July 2010. Gus Hiddink was in charge of the Russian national team when he took over the helm of affairs at the West London club as interim coach. His reign was short, but he finished third on the table and won the FA Cup. In his first stint, he had 22 matches, won 16 of them, and had a win percentage of 73. But Gus's story with Chelsea wasn't over yet. He still had another clean-up job to do. Carlo Ancelotti, May 2011. When he arrived at Chelsea, Ancelotti was a respected coach in Europe. He had dominated European football and had won the Champions League, so a lot was expected of him. Sadly, the Italian came at a time when United were really dominant, so things were a bit tricky. While at Chelsea, Ancelotti won the Premiership, the FA Cup and the Community Shield. He had a win rate of 61.47% in his 2 seasons in charge. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough reason for Abramovich to keep him when Chelsea went without a trophy in his second season. So Abramovich didn't really hang around now, did he? Andre Villas-Boas, March 2012. AVB didn't have a successful spell at Chelsea. He could only manage 19 wins from 40 matches and ended with a percentage win of just 48. Villas-Boas came on board after winning 4 trophies in 1 season at Porto. He was also the European Manager of the Year, so with this, he seemed like the right man for the job, but he just wasn't. AVB failed to handle the Chelsea dressing room, and his age, just 34 at the time, didn't help him be assertive. The Portuguese were sacked before the end of the season. With how his season was going, he wasn't going to win any trophy anyway, even if he had stayed till the end of the season. Maybe. Could he have turned it around? Roberto Di Matteo, October 2016. Di Matteo came to Chelsea first as a player and then as Villas-Boas' assistant. He took over as the interim coach when Chelsea sacked AVB. Chelsea looked like they wouldn't achieve anything that season, but Di Matteo was full of surprises. He ended up winning the club's first ever Champions League. After his Champions League win, Di Matteo took over the helm of affairs permanently, naturally. However, within just 6 months in charge, he was struggling and got the sack. We think this could be the most unjust sacking of them all. Let us know what you think down below. Rafa Benitez, July 2013. Benitez came at a point when Chelsea needed stability after the failure of Di Matteo to inspire Chelsea to winning ways despite having won the Champions League with them. Benitez was unpopular amongst the Chelsea fans, but that didn't stop him from winning the Europa Cup with Chelsea and even finishing third in the league. But despite his ability to win trophies, Chelsea opted to bring back a familiar face. Who was that person they hired, you ask? Well, let's see. Jose Mourinho, December 2015. After Benitez, Mourinho was given a second stint, which began in 2013 and lasted almost 3 years. This time around, he managed 136 games, won 80, and ended with a win percentage of 59. He went on to win 1 EFL Cup and 1 Premier League. Is he really the special one? Guus Hiddink, June 2015. In 2015, Hiddink returned as the interim manager after Mourinho's second departure. However, this time around, he couldn't bring his magic touch. Chelsea finished the season 10th on the table, and Hiddink with just a win percentage of 37, winning just 10 out of 27 games. Antonio Conte, July 2018. Chelsea were in desperate need of a revival, and in came Antonio Conte with action. In his first season, the energetic coach won the Premier League with the famous use of wing-backs, making the likes of Marcos Alonso and Victor Moses world-class for a couple of years. Sadly, he ran out of steam a little too quickly. In his second season, he won the FA Cup, but couldn't manage a top 4 finish, and that was the end of the road for him. Eventually, Conte finished with a win percentage of 65% from 69 wins in 103 games. Not bad, right? Frank Lampard, January 2021. Great footballers do not always make great coaches, and as of right now, Lampard is proof of this. Chelsea hired the Englishman, who's a club legend, and was off the back of doing a good job with Derby County. Lampard came when Chelsea had a transfer ban, and he managed things quite well, using the experienced guys he had already and, more notably, the youth who had returned from loans and players from the academy. Lampard got to the FA Cup final in his first season and finished 4th in the league. Unfortunately, after that first season, Lampard just could not inspire his men, and the club was finally able to sign players, but Lampard couldn't produce results, and so he had to go. Thomas Tuchel, September 2022. Thomas Tuchel will always be the darling of Chelsea fans, as he was present when the British government sanctioned Abramovich and he had to sell. Tuchel took over from Lampard and turned a hopeless situation around. He led Chelsea to a brilliant Champions League campaign where they only lost once and helped them win their second Champions League. But that's not all. He also helped Chelsea win the Club World Cup and the UEFA Super Cup, 2 trophies that Chelsea needed to complete their trophy cabinet. He helped the Abramovich era end with a bang. Abramovich was brutal in handling coaches, but his approach helped Chelsea win 19 major trophies in 19 years. Still, all those dismissals must have been hard on those managers. Which Abramovich sacking do you think is most unfair? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more.